I once sat with a business partner in his office in Beijing, and we were discussing a certain subject, but I felt my words didn't really reach him. So he was just shuffling in his seat, and at some point he interrupted me, saying, "Valerie, I'm sorry, but do you mind swapping chairs? I'm not comfortable sitting in this angle from the main entrance." So in line with this culture, there's another concept that is very valuable that the Chinese refer to as harmony, 和. Harmony stresses the preference of a smooth running of a society or a group. So Chinese prefer to await the right moment instead of pushing through a certain request like we sometimes tend to do here. So when you don't notice, it might come across as if Chinese are extremely lazy, waiting until the very last moment to fix things. But that's not the case. And if you bring your checklists and your deadlines to China and you think that's going to work, you will have difficult times. And believe me, I know. So in 2000, I was traveling through the countryside of China. And back then, people were quite shocked seeing a tall redhead passing by. At some point, I even had to help a cycler get back on his feet after hitting a tree while looking at me. So I arrived in Taishan, a small, relatively small town in the south of China. And there I met a girl, or actually, first I walked and I couldn't find a place to sleep. So I was just wandering around, and there I met a girl named Chen Wan. And she asked me to be my friend. And we just sat down the entire afternoon in the park, learning each other's language. But as time passed by, I felt more and more uncomfortable about the fact that I still didn't have a place to sleep. So I shared my worry with my new friend, but she just waved aside my question. I tended to ask again and again, but I managed not to, and just wait and see what would happen. So after a while, I just obediently followed her for a long walk and a 2-hour bus drive over unpaved roads, sometimes stopped by 20 donkeys trying to cross the road. So eventually we arrived at a very outdated school building, and on the 3rd floor there was a room, the size of my kitchen, filled with 6 bunk beds, offering space for 12 girls to sleep, to live, and to study. So I spent a few days and nights with my Chinese peers learning about their student lives and their environment, and I tell you, it was so much more interesting than a boring hotel. So I really believe if we'd manage to sometimes put our impatience aside and really see and wait what would come across, and if you're open to the approach of the Chinese, then much more beautiful things come to you. So the last characteristic that is probably difficult for us to understand is the fact that for many Chinese, making a mistake in public is one of the most humiliating things in life. Face, reputation, 面子 in Chinese, really determines your position in a social network. So face depends on how attractive you are, how many friends you have, the skills you have, the connections you have, how much money you have. Face can be earned, but face can also be lost. So in the day-to-day lives of Chinese, face plays a crucial role. To give you an example, a Dutch client of us signed a contract with their Chinese local partner, Mr. Fan, who is also a good friend of us. And everybody was happy because of long negotiations after a few days, and then the Dutch client left back home. One day after the Dutch client flew home, Mr. Fan turned to us, his face in terror. One of the investors had stepped out. And of course, it would have meant a showstopper for the cooperation. But to be honest, we were really happy that Mr. Fan turned to us instead of directly contacting the Dutch client. Because naturally, the Dutch client would have become very angry, causing Mr. Fan to lose his face, ruining the long-term relationship. Now we had the opportunity to together find a solution, close the gap by finding another investor. And doing this we saved Mr. Fan's face and the business of our client. So also here, I feel that if we manage to look at a certain situation from different angles, I believe it will positively benefit our business accomplishments. So I have a picture, this picture, largely projected on my wall in our office in Amsterdam. Because this man reminds me of the first time I set foot on Chinese soil. And he reminds me of all the lessons that I've learned over the years. To have a long-term view, to be patient, to be open, and to be a good listener. So I hope tonight I inspired you to also consider your own approach. And I welcome you to fly with me to China to learn from the Chinese.